Right now, let's talk about education. Now, stakeholders in the sector are pushing for the reintroduction of the shift system. They say this is one of the safest ways of not endangering students and teachers ahead of the reopening of schools. The government is expected to make a firm decision on going back to school after a cabinet meeting today. While that decision has yet to be announced, Executive Director of the Africa Education Watch, Kofi Asari, wants the government to consider allowing students to go in batches.
No country in the world has been able to contain the entire student situation at a go. In countries like in Switzerland, in Netherlands, and other countries that reopen schools very, very much earlier in the day, they are all running, school in batches. There are countries where a group of people go to school on Monday and Tuesday. The next group will go to school on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And the next week, the group that had 2 days will do 3 days and then 2 days. In our part of the world, we are used to the shift system. And so if schools with high class sizes that cannot reasonably distance within the 1 meter regulation of UNESCO and GES will definitely have to run morning and afternoon shifts. And then schools that have the capacity to accommodate all their students within the 1 meter physical distance, and especially most of the private schools, should be allowed to run their system. The most important thing is that you run the class with 1 meter distancing of desks within the classroom. So again, that's what I'm saying. We are used to the shift system, and it should be possible for us to adjust to this 1 meter physical distancing, operate class sizes of between 30-35, and still run the school in either shifts, or when you go to rural areas where class sizes are smaller, they can do their regular schooling.
Well, are you a parent? Would love to hear from you. Should that be the way to go? What do you think? Send us a WhatsApp on 0540109009. But President of the Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools, Alhaji Ahmed bin Yakub Abubakar, says there has to be efficient distribution of PPEs.
We all agree with the fact that the provision of the PPEs are necessary as far as we manage the situation at our school levels are concerned. And it is also factual that in the past 2 experiences we've had, there had been some level of delay in some cases in the supply of the PPEs. So therefore, if experience anything to go by, then it means authorities will have to look at it from that angle to see what were the impediments that resulted in the delays, and so what appropriate measures should be taken in addressing them. For now, we at the school level definitely cannot dictate to government or authorities as to how they should go about the distribution of it. What our concern will be is that they should do well to let their attempts get to the school level as early as possible to enable we, the school authorities, also plan our system and put things in place adequately so that as and when the students are reporting to the school, we are in a better position to receive them and ensure that they go by the protocols, because all those things would have been provided. For now, that is the quick response I can give.
That's Chas there speaking earlier to Daniel Dazi. Well, for President of the Ghana National Association of Private Schools, Dr. Damascus Toroson, he wants special attention given to private schools.
Like what happened in the previous phased reopenings. Government supported our schools by fumigating the schools, by supplying us with PPEs just like the public schools, and in some cases, even providing feeding for some of our students. We expect going into the full-scale reopening that government will continue with the supply of PPEs to private schools as well. From the effects of this virus and the closure of schools on private educational sector, it is virtually impossible to allow us and ask us to procure everything on our own. It's not going to be possible for us to do that. So we expect that government is going to take us on board, not just in the supply of PPEs, but when it comes to some educational material, books, assisting us financially to resuscitate our businesses. We expect all those levels of support from government. moving forward.
Dr. Turosong there. So what would be the safest way if we are to reopen our schools so that we don't endanger the lives of our students and teachers? We've been getting some of the views from you, the parents, and like I said, you can send us WhatsApp messages, but take a look at those who spoke to us today.
Well, as a parent, I personally am prepared and I'm ready to give anything that my children may need to go back to school. But my main concern is how prepared is the president too? Because we are not seeing any expansion of old schools. We are seeing only the old buildings, and the students that are there, are they going to separate them to various schools? And how is that going to be since we are not seeing new developments? Because the school that my children are going like this, I'm not seeing any new developments. I'm not seeing any progress. So when they happen to resume today, my children going to be in class like 34, 32 as they used to be, because there is no expansion going on in the school. I pass there every blessed day, no expansion. So actually, we the parents, we will be ready to do everything to support our children.
Okay, as a parent, I'm not ready for my child to go to school because I feel my child is too young. Looking at how kids are, and then in their class, I think they have 2 teachers. But with their number, I don't think they can be able to observe the protocols as the president wants everybody to do. Even in town, you can see some are wearing the face masks, others are not wearing. You see kids running here and there, and to me, I feel it's not safe.
Since the COVID took place, there are so many measures that you're supposed to put in place. Maybe there should be a provision of nose masks for the kids, and then every class, depending on the school that the kids find themselves, they should be able to minimize or reduce the number of students in the class. And the president should also ensure that in every school, he will send people around to supervise whether all these things are being put in place to ensure the safety of our kids.
I think the school need to reopen school. And since COVID nearby, and I'm like financial difficulties and stuff aside, and also no, in Kuala Lumpur, no, me who say emboa. Because if you have time to go school regularly, at the end of the day, no result never by 90%. Now you if you are online, you behind a bit because me say me will fear salary issue number form. Into me they are bundle. They are Aqualana with me access online education. And I think so mu be a beboa.
Ake president take back beleg be ni be ke bia school. Kwe won suma ke egbele ni be ke bia school ake anu kwale ni be ke bia ba hyen ya nto. Ye for ye wo be de kan ta fla che wo ke yin fo. Shi ye ameji on wo joje na me kwe. Shi anwa bomontu ni ekwaka nyongbe bo e apekole. Shi wo mele ke fe to wo fe traders. Ni wo chuoni be ke bia wo hyen amehia. E won no hyen amehia. Ka amehia ba me hwehwe mo na yin. Shi school le ke ka na gbele na mete to so me baba jemi. Teacher say wala ka me no ame wawo no ko wo bi ye. Kaloko ye na ba fe de form ne e ke be ke bia ba ya skit gbe no ko ke ka ya ya. E wa anu kwale hyen mo be ke bia ba anu kwale ehin won pa fai ko ne ya ni be ke bia bon school ya. Ka mete school ba wa ye for ye wa.
Ye nta be to obi school ni se. Ye mane tifia e wo se ye sua o mu sua ade de nanso o mbe bon. And school no so de eboa. Aduane ne de ene wo wi gale kura banku ni mako batimi awe. Awe ne saa ke ka wi ada. Na ehia sa akwa ne be ko sua ade. Ye no yanti me anko school ni bi. Ene ti na ye force say ale ane wo ho mom de. Nanso ye mane betia ba school. Ama teacher for na mo wo ho no. O betimi protect ye mane ye e wo school mu ho. Sa akwa ne fa ne sanko to fam. Ni ma me de sanitizer be sha ne bag mi na wonya ne basa basa.
Okay, so while we wait to engage with the government on policy direction in this regard, we're going to have a conversation with the Institute of Education Studies. That's the IFirst. I'll introduce to you who I'll be talking to. But like I said, if you are a parent, you heard the people that we've spoken to. There seem to be mixed reaction. But this is just a handful of the people that we're spoken to, a handful of the over 30 million Ghanaians that there are, right? So even though it's basically mixed reaction. You can tell that there are a good number of people who want schools to reopen, but with the measures that ensures that people, children and teachers are not endangered. I have Peter Enti. He's Executive Director of IFES. IFES is the Institute for Education Studies. Mr. Enti, thank you very much for your time and good afternoon. First of all, I'll take, you have a 3-page press release that you have sent, which I have here. But I want to take your general overview of this topic under discussion.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon. Yes, we think that as far back as in August, we did a research that showed that a lot of people are willing to allow their children to go back to school. That was when we were having a conversation about whether the final year students should go or not. So we are clear in our minds that when the decision is taken for parents to send their kids to school, they would definitely oblige. It's a dicey situation for the government, but they are in a privileged position because there are a lot of proposals that have been written from our side, from all other stakeholders. Again, they have information from the partial reopening that we did for the final years and then the second years. So these experiences should inform the policy direction that they will take going into 2021 and whether they will have to do a wholesale reopening of the schools. If we decide to go by the shift system, the only challenge that we are supposed to have is the resource implication, especially the human resource implication. How are our teachers going to be distributed? Is it not going to affect the distribution of teachers where in some areas teachers are not even enough for the students in the school? So we think that it wouldn't be a one-way policy direction. We should look at the peculiar nature of our challenge and the distribution of those challenges in the various regions and direct education directly in those regions to take control of how they will be able to ensure that schools are safe and sound. For the provision of the PPEs, we think that the government at this time knows that it is very crucial. They in the initial stages have helped the private schools to obtain these things, and we know that although it's also a very difficult thing in terms of the budget issue for the government, they should be able to find finances somewhere to be able to provide for all students across the length and breadth of the country. But whether we are going for a wholesale reopening or still go by the partial reopening, we think that there is a lot of proposals that have been made to the government with the experience of the managers of the education and that of the experience that we have gathered during the partial reopening. They should be able to make the right decision going forward.
And talking about the right decision, assuming you were to make that decision, which one would you go for?
One, the negatives of asking students to stay in the house is enormous as compared to the positives. I would want to do a wholesale reopening. I would want to intensify my monitoring and supervision roles so that at every now and then, those in charge of, the NASIA, they will ask their people to go around to ensure that the relevant protocols are followed. I would make sure that the health people are still attached to these schools, a cluster of schools, so that in case that there are records of these things coming up in schools, there will be a quick response to it. I will intensify my communication system so that when issues like this pop up, we will quickly tackle it and assure the parents that we are on top of the situation. I think that's what I would do.
I see. Given that nationwide, we have not really been able to seriously monitor compliance to COVID-19 protocols, do you think that we can do that at that level in schools where, we have young children, we have children, people who are very young, we have children, we have a mass of them?
It's true. That's why I talked about the regional education offices and the district education office. I think this is the time that they need to step out and they don't need to stay in the offices. I'm thinking that they should be assigned to specific schools or cluster of schools so that they can do daily monitoring of activities in the schools. At least for the first few weeks when school reopen, we need them on the ground. We don't need them to stay in their offices. We need them on the ground. The government can add other agencies that are less burdened, so that they can also support with the monitoring practice. I know it's going to be difficult. I have to be realistic. It's going to be very difficult. We will need the headmasters to be on top of their game in terms of monitoring in our schools and helping to observe the protocols. We will need them to also do that. It's going to be difficult, but we cannot afford to allow the students to stay in the house for another 2, 3, or 4 months.
Okay, let's come to your statement. It's about, what, 3 pages of them that I've got here. I'm just going to highlight a few, which I believe is the most important part for you. You're talking about, you have a position against automatic promotion of students. Help us understand that and what the alternative is from your perspective.
Yeah, so simply, schools went down when the new curriculum has not run its full course. When it runs its full course, it means that the academic year has come to an end. The students are supposed to move. Now, the uniqueness of this curriculum is said that specific competencies are supposed to be imbibed by students before they move to the next level. Now, if you are not able to run the new curriculum to its full course, and you are asking students to now proceed to the next level, what you are simply doing is that you are asking the next teacher to pick up the competencies that they were supposed to have obtained in the previous class and add it to the competencies that they are supposed to obtain in the current class. That is going to be a burden on the teacher. And that is why we are saying that it is going to be very difficult for teachers to cope with that, especially at the time that they have themselves stayed in the house. Some of them, when we spoke to them, showed that they have not even, they have lost track of what they were doing, that they will need to refresh their minds. Again, research has shown that when students stay in the house for a longer period, they get back to school, especially those at the basic level, they get back to school with 60% of their literacy gone, 60% of their numeracy gone, and then 40% of their literacy gone. Now, how are you going to help them come up? It's the teacher that was handling them, that knows them, that will be able to help them bring them up to that level before the teacher asks them to move to the next class. So we are basically against automatic promotion. The idea that when school reopens, assuming in January, everybody is supposed to move to the next class, it is going to have a bigger challenge for our education system, especially at the foundation level, because they might not be able to grasp the competencies as they proceed. And that's why we're asking
even if they did some online classes or some virtual classes?
The unfortunate thing is that over 95% of students in deprived and rural areas never benefited from the online classes. I think if you listen to the guy who spoke to your reporter, and he said that he doesn't even have money to ask the child to access an online platform. And that is somebody in Accra. So you can think of what is happening in our deprived areas. So what they are saying is that when school reopens, they should give the teachers 4 weeks for them to still handle their students, help them come to the level that they are supposed to come, and maybe continue to teach them what they were supposed to teach them within the 4 weeks, and cover the competencies that they were supposed to cover before they ask them to proceed to the next class. Teachers have stayed in the house for a long period, so when you reduce the vacation period, I don't think they are going to complain. Parents have kept their kids in the house for a long period. When you ask the students to go for a 1-week vacation and come back after Easter, I don't think they will complain. So we need to do the right thing so that we don't push everybody to the next level, which is going to have a very big challenge for us in the near future. I see.
I'm just going to read some messages that I've received, and then we call it a wrap there. This is from Daniel Lata in Techiman. He says, for now, there is no other option than reopening the schools. And he asked that the shift system will be the best option for now. Poor education is better than no education at all. What do you make of that?
That is a wrong statement. If
you mean you don't agree? You don't agree with that statement?
Yes, it's a wrong statement. In education,
no, you don't agree with it, but that's his opinion.
Yeah, I don't agree with it. You see, because the education we give our children have an impact on the human resource that we will have in the near future. And that is one of the issues that World Bank is even talking about, the poverty of learning that is going to crowd countries like us in this period where we have kept the students in the house for a longer period, and that is going to deprive them of economic opportunities going forward in the next 10 to 20 years. So we don't need to talk about poor education at this time at all. We have to do the right things and do it so that in the near future, these people would be beneficial to the society, to themselves, and to the entire country.
There's this one that ties in nicely with the question I was going to ask. It's from Baba Shako. He says, schools to be reopened must be done based on approved scientific findings, and I'm much more worried about tertiary institutions where almost or more than 2,000 people gather in one hall for lectures. Your thoughts?
I think that with the tertiary institution, when we started with the online program, I think most of them were able to enroll their students online. Okay. I'm thinking that for their level, I've said, and I will repeat that, it should be possible for them to do blended learning in such a way that they do partial online and then they do face-to-face. So they can, a lecture period that is 3 hours, they can do 2 hours online and they can come and do tutorials. In that instance, the class that is 300 can break into, let's say, 50. So the lecturer will have to handle the class 6 times. Right. That is possible with the tertiary institutions. But with the basic level, I don't think we should continue with the online thing that we started because it has widened the gap of inequality. Okay.
We were supposed to have a conversation with NAGRAT. Unfortunately, we're told that they're in another crucial meeting at this point, so we're not able to talk to them right now. So just for those of you, our viewers, that we're waiting to hear from NAGRAT and UTAG, we're told that they have been tied up in a meeting right now and they won't be able to talk to us. Ms. Ente, before you go, did you do any work during the partial reopening, and what did you find that could impact on our next steps going forward if we are to reopen at all?
Yeah, we did 3 studies. I think prominent among them was when we realized that the promise made by government, I mean the ministry, Ghana Education Service, to the schools in terms of the provision of the PPEs and then linking each school to a health facility was not kept. We are hoping that going forward was not largely kept. Let me be diplomatic in using that.
I mean, we've had Chas speak about it, and the fact that those that were delivered even took time. So they're also talking about, you know, timely delivery of these items. So yeah, it sounds certainly on track.
Yes. So if you are going to have a wholesale reopening, it means that the resource implication is going to be more than when we're even doing few schools. Yeah. So government should, if government wants to do that, then they should, as early as possible, make sure they get the PPEs and especially link schools to health facilities. It's very important. When we have that, it means that anytime there is a challenge, quickly we know who to call and which hospital to take the child to.
Peter, thank you very much for your time. Peter Ente, there is Executive Director of IFES, that's Institute for Education Studies there. Like I said, there is a cabinet meeting ongoing today that would give us an idea whether or not our children are going to school next month. And NAGRAT and UTAG are also locked up in a series of meetings. They were supposed to join in the conversation.